Chris Mackowski for the American Battlefield Trust. You are with us for the 160th anniversary commemoration of the Battle of Brandy Station. And we are at a little off the beaten path part of the battlefield that we really wanted to share with you because we all think this is just an extraordinary spot. Beautiful grove here in the trees, but once upon a time, this used to be the site of St. James Episcopal Church. And have you learned more about it, I will ask my brother, Dan Davis, to come up here to the lectern to tell you a little bit about our congregation.
Thanks, Chris. As he mentioned, we're standing on the site of St. James Episcopal Church. It was incorporated in 1840 by Richard Hoop Cunningham and his neighbors, and it was built using slave labor. Interestingly enough, the congregation consisted of both whites and slaves. The whites would sit in the lower level where we are standing, and there was a gallery that surrounded the church, the top portion of the church, where the slaves would sit. The church is going to be here during the battle. It's going to play witness to the battle as it's along Robert Beckham's artillery line, which we're going to visit in just a few minutes. Now, Brandy Station is not the first time that this area will see action. During the 1862 Second Manassas campaign, there will be an artillery duel back near Buford's Knoll between Confederate and Union artillery. Confederates firing from the south bank of the river. And during that firing, the Washington Artillery of New Orleans is going to take several casualties. And those casualties are going to be brought back here to the church, where the pews will be utilized as coffins, and those men now rest just a few yards off to my left. During the winter of 1863-1864, the Army of the Potomac is going to set up its encampment here in Culpeper. George Meade is going to establish his headquarters nearby, and it's his headquarters escort, the 6th U.S. Cavalry, that will eventually dismantle the church utilizing the bricks for their winter huts. Fortunately, though, for historians, an officer in the 6th U.S. Cavalry, a fellow named Lewis Carpenter, is going to sketch the church before his comrades dismantle it. And we've utilized this sketch to create an augmented reality experience, recreating what St. James Church would have looked like in 1863. You can access this feature on our website, battlefields.org. And now I'm going to turn it back to Chris Mackowski.
And if you come out here, there's a great little walking path that brings you here. You can see where the outline of the church was, and there's a little indentation. There are actually a couple benches out here. You can see that there's a table and a lectern as well, so you can kind of evoke the sense of what the church used to look like here on this beautiful grove. We're going to head back to the story of the battle, the scene of the action, heading out so we can see some of the action that took place in the field right behind this line of trees. So through the magic of technology, we've jumped out of the forest and onto the field. If we take a look off to my right, you can see there's a little depression in the field and some trees, and then beyond that is the screen of trees where the site of the church was. So we've just kind of come out here into the open so we can take a look at this field, because here is where one of the better known stories here from Brandy Station takes place. And I'm going to bring Dan Davis on to talk about it.
Thanks, Chris. Hey there, everyone. Now, as the fighting has developed here at Brandy Station on the morning of June 9th, 1863, John Buford's wing has come across the Rappahannock River at Beverly's Ford, but his attack has ground, or his advance has ground to a halt because of the loss of one of his brigade commanders, Colonel Benjamin Davis. Buford himself is going to come across the river after he learns of Davis's death to assess the situation. Now, as Greg mentioned in an earlier video, much of the fighting has been focused here along Beverly's Ford Road, and this is where Buford is going to focus his next effort. Now, at the same time, Robert Beckham's horse artillery has fallen back to the plateau that we're now standing on, extending down toward the site of St. James Church, which we just visited. On the opposite side of the road, Wade Hampton is going to deploy his brigade to extend the Confederate line. Now, John Buford, again, he's come across the Rappahannock River, he's assessing the situation, and he's going to send an attack forward on the front that we're now standing on. He's going to send orders to Major Robert Morris of the 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry. If the name sounds familiar, it should be. Morris is a relative of the financier of the American Revolution, Robert Morris, his namesake. The 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry is going to begin moving forward out of the far wood line, not the wood line that you see in the distance, but another wood line beyond that and out onto this plateau. Henry Whalen, a major in the 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry, is going to right of the attack on the Confederate guns here on this plateau. One company advanced as skirmishers. 2 squadrons followed as support. In an open area on the other side of the belt of woods, the rebel cavalry, apparently about double our number, were drawn up. We charged their squadron front and through a severe artillery fire on our left, drove them into the woods beyond, where a hand-to-hand fight ensued. Whilst leading this charge, Major Morris, his horse fell with him at a ditch and broke away from him when he got up, thus leaving him dismounted and stunned by his fall. It is supposed that Major Morris was taken prisoner. Major Morris will indeed be taken prisoner and sadly pass away in Richmond at Libby Prison just several months later. And if you get a chance to visit the Brandy Station battlefield, you'll notice that there is a low ditch here down just on the other side of this knoll that we're standing on. At the same time as the 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry is making their attack, the 6th U.S. Cavalry is going to charge off to their left in support. John Buford's going to write in his official report that the cavalry rode up almost to the mouths of the guns of the Confederate artillery that was up here. But both attacks are going to be turned back. This is one of, in fact, the more famous episodes of the Brandy Station battle because it's captured by the sketch artist Alfred Woad. Woad is going to take up a position somewhere off in the distance and sketch the attack and the ground that we're now standing on. And now I'd like to bring on my friend and mentor, Greg Mertz. Greg?
Thank you, Dan. When this fighting got underway on June 9th of 1863, Jeb Stuart in his headquarters heard the sound of action and got word of what was taking place, and he would do several important things. He would send his headquarters equipment to the rear to safety. He realized that several of the roads leading into Brandy Station had been left either unguarded or did not have sufficient number of troops along them, so he sent some of his men out to protect vulnerable areas. And then lastly, Jeb Stuart himself came up here to the front where the heavy fighting was going on. He would have been aware that the line had held against the charge that Dan just spoke about.
Now we can hear that the Confederate Air Cavalry is taking off. People don't realize that component of this battle, led by Brigadier General Orville Wilbur Winger, he's going to then kind of take a look from the air about what the formations are looking like here. One of the, see, there he goes. There he off doing his own reconnaissance. Unfortunately, he's going to put himself in a position where no brigadier general should be between his main line. Oh wait, I'm thinking of Chancellorsville and Stonewall Jackson, aren't I? So one of the realities of being out here at Brandy Station, just we have an airport next to us. Sometimes we just have to own it and have some fun with it, even though it interrupts some fantastic history by Greg.
All right, so to pick up where I think I left off, Dan got through explaining about the attack of the 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry here and how this portion of the Confederate line held. Well, Stuart, as he is up here and things are seemingly going well, will get word from William E. Grumble Jones that some Confederate forces that Stuart had sent off to take an eye, to keep an eye on the Kelly's Ford crossing off to the east of us, learned that there's a Union force coming in from that direction. So Grumble Jones sends a message to Stuart telling him that he needs to be careful and be concerned about his right, the right end of the line. And when Stuart got that, Stuart and Jones are like oil and water personality-wise, and Stuart sends a word to William E. Grumble Jones saying him that he should worry about the Union troops in his front and let Stuart worry about the flank. Now when Grumble Jones got that message, kind of seemingly dismissing the report, he said, "So he thinks they ain't coming, does he? Well, let him alone. He'll damn soon see for himself." Sure enough, a little while later, a courier came from the direction of Brandy Station in rear of the Confederate line here at St. James Church, letting him know that there was Union forces behind him. He didn't know the courier that happened to deliver the message, turned to someone else and said, "Go back and see what all this foolishness is about." And as if to add punctuation to his message, all of a sudden he heard cannon fire coming from his rear, the direction of Brandy Station. And then Stuart realized that indeed some of these reports of the enemy coming in around him were indeed accurate, and he needed to react to this new front at Fleetwood Hill near the town of Brandy Station.
And that means we're going to have to fall back to Fleetwood Hill ourselves, probably the most iconic spot on this entire battlefield. Before we leave, though, I just want to give a little sales pitch here for this area around St. James. This is property that you helped preserve. A lot of hands helped make this possible. I'll always give a shout out to Bud Hall for his work, but the Brandy Station Foundation and many volunteers, many supporters just like you have made this property possible. There's a great walking trail that goes across this field with waysides along the way that explain some of the action that took place here. Excellent Steve Stanley maps involved. And we've got, of course, the site of St. James Church where we started today. So come on out here as you explore the battlefield. You can be in this spot, walk these fields, feel history for yourself. We're commemorating the 160th anniversary of the Battle of Brandy Station. We've got more to come, but make sure you're following all of our videos on our YouTube page. Follow us on Facebook. And of course, remember that the Brandy Station Foundation has events going on to commemorate the anniversary as well. For Greg Mertz, Dan Davis, Professor Andy Polton behind the camera, I'm Chris Mackowski. Thanks so much for everything you do for us to help support battlefield preservation and education.